Hello and welcome into my latest live video. My name is Kerry Holzman. Today is the 15th of July, 2021. I'm going to get all fancy today with all my cameras working. Yeah, look at me now. How's everybody doing? This guy's feeling left out. Yeah, he's good to go. Yeah, we're good to go. Good. Everything's working. Don't mind me. I'm the talent, I'm the writer, I'm the producer, I'm the camera operator, I'm the cinematographer, I'm the lighting guy, I'm the set designer. I'm also the on-air talent. So, what are we doing today? I'll tell you what I gotta do. I gotta do some freaking work. Yeah, I have got a ton of prepped motherboards. 2 of them, I have paying customers waiting. So guess which ones I'm gonna do first. Hey guys. Contribution just came in from PC Fishing for $25. And he quotes the title of this video, Computer Assembly. Want to watch me work? He says, of course I do. Okay, so this video will be a little different. Let me make sure that I'm being heard. This video is going to be a little bit different. I'd like to think of my videos as a classroom with my students. Sometimes the teacher learns from the students, okay? So it's not just a one-directional thing, but in my mind, I'm teaching as a class. Today, I'm allowing you to join me while I work. And what that means is there's going to be a lot of camera shots where my back is to the camera when necessary. Now, if you're not gonna like this, feel free to just check out some of my other videos or wait in the future as I do continue to expand the variety of content that I have. But today, you get to be a fly on the wall, and sometimes flies have to look at people's backs. Will I do actual work for actual clients that I'm held accountable and responsible for, and how I make a living? So I will have a little bit of interaction, but primarily I want to really try and get at least 3 motherboards mounted in cases. Whether or not I do the cable management, I haven't decided yet, but this is something a little different. Here's the alternative, if you don't like this. The alternative is I switch the camera off and I just do what I was planning to do without the criticism. So I would appreciate, if you want to hang out, you're welcome to. If this is not the kind of content you like, there's like 3 or 4 other YouTube channels you could watch, at least. Crack me up. All right, shall we get started? I'd like to get some work done and not be distracted by the audience today. Sometimes I like the distraction. The other day with the date time issue, this is another returned motherboard. I did this one last night. The date on this was set to 2099 in the BIOS. So that's the second one in a row. Now again, for installing Windows 10, it won't make any difference. But that could have been why the board was returned. In fact, I suspect that's why. That's 2 in a row. So I do think it's important to check those dates. That reminds me, I've got a little notepad in the other room where I write down ideas for videos I have to make. And if I don't write it down, I'll forget. So we're going to do a quick tips video of why the date and time are important. And I'm going to give you a hint. The exact reasons vary. But if you don't think the date and time matter, Y2K. Now, we don't have the Y2K problem anymore, but we run into 32-bit time clock issues. We run into Y3K issues. There are mathematical equations that at the current state of technology, they cannot compute and reach their limits based on the architecture of the time we're living in. And it grows and it expands, and the limits keep moving up. But that will be a quick tips video. SSD myths, we're gonna do a quick tips on the whole issue of an SSD failing writes. That I've never met a human being in my life that's experienced it, and I doubt I ever will, unless that human being was intentionally making that SSD fail with that intent. I've got a Synology setup video to do. Another YouTube channel did a whole thing on electrostatic discharge protection. I couldn't disagree with it more. While it is technically accurate, it's completely impractical and unlikely that any of you would ever experience it. It's something that deals, when you're dealing in a factory, that's one thing. But when somebody, generally speaking, when somebody says the reason the part failed was because of electrostatic discharge, what they're really telling you is, I don't know why it failed. So it's a good sort of ghost. So there's a half-an-hour video about electrostatic discharge protection. What a waste of a half an hour. It's completely irrelevant. It creates anxiety and technochondria behind people afraid of it, of this magical ghost. Before the components are installed in a circuit board in a factory, that's where ESD protection is important. What I teach on my channel is ESD prevention. If the reason why an electrostatic discharge happens is because you have a different electrical charge than the thing you're touching, zap. And if you think about this logically, if you put an electrostatic strap on your wrist and you plug it into an earth ground, you're still not on the same electrical level as the thing you're touching. And that's why you'll still get an electrical shock even when you're wearing a ground wire. Capiche? So instead of telling you for a half an hour how to protect your equipment against electrostatic discharge by wiring yourself into an earth ground, which is potentially dangerous if you're working with high voltage, which we're not with computers, but just overall electrical knowledge, basic electrical 101, you want to be on the same level. So in other words, if you both run earth ground, then you're on the same level. If you're on earth ground and that isn't, that's no different than you not being on earth ground, only that the charge will go to the path of least resistance, which presumably is going to be to the earth ground, but you can't really guarantee which direction the electricity is going to go. So I'm all about prevention, and prevention is that you are attached to the thing you're touching so that you're always on the same electrical level. Then no static shock exists. So if you don't believe me, buy one of those wrist straps, go do what these big YouTube check channels are advising you to do, plug it into earth ground, then build up a static charge and then touch anything. You're gonna get a spark every single time. That's why it's ESD protection, not ESD prevention. So I'm going to make that video, or hell, I just did. I guess I can just edit that out. It really angers me how carefully they select their words and then drive to their agenda without fully disclosing to the audience. There's two different ways to look at this. And protection is not prevention. If you prevent it, you don't have to protect from it. Got it? Got it. Class dismissed. Let me get to work. Mic drop. Holy cow. Half an hour talking about something you're never going to experience, or at least as far as any damage goes. I told that channel I'll give him $100 if he can statically charge himself and touch a consumer-based PC component and damage it. And they erased my comment almost immediately. I don't think they like me. I want to visit the set just for fun. Say, hey, it's nice to meet you, man. This is a cool set. Hey, is that the case that you reviewed that runs 3 degrees hotter? Piece of crap. That runs 3 degrees hotter. All in good fun. All in good fun. Just a matter of just taking the satire up a notch. So silly to worry about such tiny little improbable and irrelevant things and obsess about it and make a video for 2 hours about it. And then people that don't know think that's actually important. It's great for trivia night. But in getting work done, not so helpful. All right. All my friends in blue, hello to everybody. Thanks, you guys, for joining me. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. Really, really ridiculous. Now, I've got a couple of boards out here. This one I finished up last night. This did have the year 2099 on it. This was a return board. And this one I was putting together for this customer because I couldn't get these boards. But I hadn't finished this yet. And then I was able to get these boards returned. And so I changed my mind. And so this is extra. We might use this in a giveaway. That's why I've taken the CPU and the RAM out of it, but I already updated the BIOS and everything in there. Now I've got Windows 10 and Office installed on this using my product key, all the instructions for how to download the software and then how to activate it with a legit product key are in the video notes below this video. Save some money. There's Planet Cryos. He says, hey, it's time for... Hey, it's carry time for us, just letting you know. Rick Lakes contributed 5, and I, before the show started. Oh my gosh, thank you, Planet Cryos, for letting me know. I need to talk to you about a little side project I want to see if you're interested in. There it is. Planet Cryos contributed $5. He kicked us off with the first contribution. And there's Rick Lakes with $10. Rick has been a frequent contributor, and you're all very valuable members of the community. But I just want to give a special thank you to Rick for his continued support. And of course to Planet Cryos and Tony Wallow and John, Jack Wilson, and everybody else. John Craig is another one there watching us out of England, contributes $5. He says, different is good, me like. Thank you, John. Go Shadow, $5. Go Shadow's another. All the frequent contributors are back again today. Thank you, guys. Contributes $5. He says, fun in isolation room, have COVID. I got the vaccine in March. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All right. Thank you for doing the right thing and not infecting other people. I'll try and keep you entertained as best as I can. So this build right here, this is going to one of my clients. And another build that looks like it, that's the one I did yesterday, the 9900K with the 64 gigs of RAM that runs nice and cool. That's going to go into a brand new Corsair 200R case. I've had several people ask me what my replacement is for the Corsair 200R case, and I sat baffled going, why would I need a replacement? And they said, well, because they're out of stock at Amazon. They've been out of stock for a while. I said, yeah, but I ordered like 12 of them. So until I get rid of the 12 I have, I'm not too worried about it. On top of that, Silverstone and Enermax have both sent me cases to review, and I still have a couple of NZXT cases to get rid of here. So even when I run out of 200Rs, I think I have 2 left. When I run out of them, that's perfect because for my business clients, they all have 200Rs. I got to keep that the same. I don't have to. I want to keep it the same for consistency across the office. And then I'll be out of them. The 200Rs will be gone. So I might have 3 or 4. But once they're gone, I don't care. Like I've got so much other stuff to use here. As for a replacement, I will only use the 200R. I just think it's temporarily unavailable. It'll be back in stock again. Joshua Robinson contributes $20. Mira Aura with $10. Mira Aura says, Jay's 2 cents to the video where he kept building static and zapping a motherboard while the PC was running, and it just kept on going, so I don't understand what all this ESD fuss is about. Remember, if a part were to burn out, and somebody says to you, let me go to this camera. If somebody says to you, this part burned out because of electrostatic discharge, they're guessing. What's also possible is that a hair on your head fell and short-circuited the circuit board, causing what would appear to be the same kind of damage from electrostatic discharge. If a piece of lint or even a piece of dust that was big enough to, because sometimes these solder points on modern electronics are very close together. If that were to fall from the air and short-circuit it and cause a short circuit, if there was something going on with the power, where there was a power spike that you didn't know, we don't know which direction the electricity was going, or if another failed component further down the line didn't do its job. So when anybody tells you something was damaged through electrostatic discharge, they are guessing. It's a ghost. It's an easy answer to solve every problem. So whenever you can't figure out a situation in your life, when something doesn't make any sense, just say ESD did it. And now you're a qualified computer technician based on the world I'm living in, which I think is crazy. But that's just my opinion. Earth grounds and anti-static grounds are two different kinds of grounds. One is for protection, one is for prevention. They're different, and that should be taught, in my opinion. Educate the viewers. I don't have to turn you into electricians, but you should at least understand basic electricity if you're interested. It's really, really simple. If people overthink it, overcomplicate it, and worry about something that's never going to happen. Damn it, I lost the lottery again. Must have been the fault of Ssd. Okay. Calm down, Carrie. Calm down. Yeah, thanks for that. Let's go back to this camera here. All right, so let me get some work done, guys. Thank you. Glenn's Music said his sarcasm detector is going off the chart. Well, I guess I'm doing a good job then. Off the Charts with Carrie Holzman. That should be the title of the video. So this board right here, which one is this? Okay, this one's going to the lawyer's office. So with the lawyer's office, I have some older Leon Lee cases, and we're recycling them. They won't have USB 3.0 up front because the cases were purchased 12 years ago, whatever it's been. This is the third or fourth motherboard upgrade we put into them into the length of time. Maybe it's been 15 years. I don't remember. The build video is still on the channel if you want to go back and check it out, how we used to do things back in that day. And we're going to put this board, which is the same board I'm building brand new in Corsair 200Rs. So this system will be the same as all the other systems in the office. And that office has a mix of about 50% of these Leon Lee cases and about 50% of the 200Rs. And the reason is the corporation grew and I could no longer get the Leon Lee cases, forcing me then to have to move over to the 200R, but not enough of a difference to justify replacing all the Leon Lees. So for now, keep all that over there. Let me get this out of the way. We'll revisit this as time permits. Paul 1961 with 10 Canadian dollars. Hey, thank you, Paul. All right. This is heavy, even though I've already gutted it. I've already taken all. Did I do this on video? I might even have done it on video. And let me just grab a little Post-it note and cover up their product key right there. You guys, nobody can steal it. Okay, basic old Leon Lee brushed aluminum. These were expensive, and the reason the sales pitch was, hey man, you're not going to have to replace these. These are really nice cases. Of course, I didn't think about the USB up front being 2.0, but they're a lawyer's office. You know, whether you copy a small file like a Word document, a PDF through USB 2 or 3, it just takes seconds regardless. So that doesn't really matter. And of course, the motherboard will have USB 3 on the back. So if it's important enough to them, we can put a little USB extension and run it up to the front. But they've never asked me to do that. I got practical solutions for all things. That saves having to buy a new case. It saves money. Not everybody's interested in saving money. Some people just want the best. Unfortunately, they represent, in my business, very few of my customers. I wish all my customers just opened their wallet and just said, hey, spend away. But they don't. So I make assumptions that most of you also want to save money. And so this is how I save my clients money. And it encourages them to stay with me because they know I can take care of them as they have always had me take care of them for the price they've always paid. And so we help each other out. They keep me busy and I keep them up and running. I keep them busy. Rick Rubisit with €5 says, it's been a while. I hope you and the chat are all doing fine. Major floods in the Netherlands happening now, but I'm safe. And tomorrow is my birthday. Happy birthday, Rick. Yeah, we're in monsoon season here in Arizona. We've been getting finally some rain, but it also comes with extreme winds and it's a little scary, but I'd like to see more of it here. In fact, our water source is Lake Mead, a lot of it. Well, Lake Mead is a reservoir. It primarily feeds Las Vegas, but it comes off the Colorado River. And I think the president's about to declare a emergency because the level of water left in Lake Mead is the lowest it's ever been in my lifetime. I've never seen it that low. So it's a little worrisome. Bob Connors with $20 says, I love these videos. The other day brought back to life an old HP computer that accepted Windows 10 with a BIOS date 2008. Yet no BIOS update was available. It's amazing. Hey, Bob, if they did it right, they had nothing to fix, right? Or if the board was so limited on features, that also means that there's less to go wrong. So that's great. I'm glad that you have learned or been inspired by my channel, and I love to hear that kind of feedback. I appreciate your contribution, of course, but your feedback even more so. There's so many mean and nasty people that to counter that, for every one nasty comment, I need like 10 nice comments to get it out of my head. All right, let me get to work. Handy dandy trusty Milwaukee M4 screwdriver. Love this screwdriver with its lithium-ion battery. Lasts me about 3 months before it needs a charge. It takes about 20 minutes to charge it. When it's empty, it charges quick. It's good to go. I even have a spare battery in here now, just in case I forget to charge it. There it is. You'll see I put a date, put my label maker, so I know which one's the old battery, which one's the new battery. I put a label on my label maker, so I know. Zaphod 88. Is that Zaphod Bibelbrox? Contributes 200 CZK. That's Czechoslovakian somethings. He says, hey, Carrie, greetings from the Czech Republic. Thanks to you, I've learned some great practices that I've used in my new AMD 5900X build, and that thing runs like a charm. Thanks for sharing actual practical knowledge. Keep rocking on. It's interesting that the culture, being Czech, would use the same expression as Americans, because I think keep rocking on is a Western expression. So that's just interesting. But thank you. Thank you for, again, letting me know I've inspired you. And well, I personally am not a fan of AMD. It doesn't mean it's not the right choice for you and that you wouldn't be completely happy and have no problems with it, right? So that's awesome. That sounds like a nice build. And I hope it brings you many, many years of joy. If anything should ever happen, you can always come here for help. If you guys have questions while I'm working, technical questions, we have lots of very smart people in the chat room who may offer you their best solution to the best answer they can provide to your question. So even if you want your question answered by me, I want you to know, oftentimes in the chat room, there are better suggestions than what you're going to get from me, and they'll come quicker. So my thanks to those in the chat who offer that service. We've got about 500 people watching around the world. I would really like to get to work. So I apologize if it appears that I'm going to be ignoring you here for a little bit. But let's just, if you want, put on some music. And I'm going to do a little work. I'll do what I can to show you what I'm doing, which is not the way I work, by the way. I would not come around here to do this if the camera wasn't on. But I'm doing this for you because, you know, you're special. Previously gutted this machine, so it's just ready to have the board put in. I didn't want to lose the standoff screws because they're unique to this, well, they're pretty much unique to every case, but I don't have any spare ones laying around. So if I lose them, I'm not screwed because I wouldn't have the screws. This way I don't lose them. I've got so many projects going on. I don't know where anything is anymore. So I keep it all together or forget it. I have organized piles. David B. with a $20 contribution. Thank you, David. Very kind. This is a Core i7 9700K, 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte Intel NVMe 665p on an H370 HD3 board. This is basically the 8-year build. You can do the 8-year build in 9th generation, 10th generation, or 11th generation, but you do have to change the board and the chip. Duh. But as long as I can get these, this is good for at least 8 years. Now, of course, this part, without an overhead camera, you just have to use your imagination. Planet Cryos with another $5 contribution. Says, all right, since I'm working on an edit for you, I can't watch this. But hey, we still want the shirts. You and me both, brother. I'm doing what I can, man. I mean, I got to take care of these paying customers. I got to get some of this stuff out of here. The shirts are not forgotten. They're just postponed. Story of my life. But I heard something rattling around in here. I need to get that I/O shield in here first. I think this is the I/O shield for this board. I better check that. I'm not sure now. I've had so many boards. I think this is the right one. We'll see which comes first, my shirts or Windows 11. This is bending too easily. Let me make sure this is the right one. I want to make sure this grounding strap right here, you see how bent down that is? That's going to get trapped and fold down like this and block that port. So right now is a good time to lift that up. Right about there is good. And then we'll just check it, make sure it's the right one. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants that. Recycle bin. When I say nobody, I'm referring to none of my customers will ever look at that, and I sure as heck don't need it. So that's where it goes. That's the right one. Mitch Morrison was going to be here tomorrow. We're going to do a build for you guys. And I am working on a project that's going to require 4 people's help. I need at least 4 people. And they're already, all but one of them is aware of it. And they're all signed up. It's a video project I cannot do alone. It requires 4 people. And it's going to cost me $4,000. That's all I'm going to tell you. And I don't know when it's going to happen. Here we go again. But I'm already $2,000 into it. So it's going to happen. I don't have a choice. But I still have another $2,000 to go. But I can't get the parts yet. So that's why I can't commit to a date. I need to acquire the parts first. So I'm keeping an eye on those parts, and when they become available and I receive them, you're going to see a video. You're going to see content no other YouTube content creator has ever done. Doesn't mean it's better. It just means it's different. I've never done it before, and I'm not aware of anybody who's ever done this. So it's going to require 4 people to do it. So I'm really excited. And it's a huge investment. For me, it is anyway. That's all I'm going to tell you. But I'm excited to have to say something. I can't keep a secret. I have to at least tease it. So many cables and wires are getting trapped under the board right now. And as I pull one out, the previous one I pulled out falls back under it again. So I'm trying to be really careful at what I'm doing here. And I also am realizing that with this giant heat sink in the way, to get that cable on in the corner, I better put it on now before I secure the board down. Which I probably should have done about 5 minutes ago. The great thing about this build is there's really no cable management because it wasn't a thing when this case was made. So there's a little bit of cable management, tiny bit, but not like it is today. And once that cable management was done, when I originally built this first motherboard in the case back 15 years ago, whenever that was, it never needs to change again unless the cables are a little too short. But for the most part, the cables are running the exact same length. And yeah, there's really no additional cable management. It's already been managed. So as long as they still reach, no further cable management is necessary. I just need to make sure that they don't get caught up underneath the motherboard. But more importantly, I need to make sure I get that 8-pin CPU power connector on right now, because that side cooler is so big. If I just left the Intel stock cooler on it, it wouldn't be a problem. But, you know, more money, more problems. I spent more money for a better cooler. Well, technically, this doesn't come with a cooler. The K-series Intel chips don't come with coolers. Stop talking to me. I'm trying to get some work done, damn it. But it was a good question, so thank you for asking. No, shut up. I'm kidding, of course. How's that bald spot in the back of my head looking, huh? Coming along nicely? Even with the board not mounted, this is difficult. Still can barely see it. You know what? I'm going to do it the way I normally do it, because trying to do it for you guys isn't really benefiting you guys looking at the back of my head. On, and I'll go ahead and hook the rear case fan on, because that connector on the H370 is right next to, right beside the power connector. However, the wire tie on this is a little bit, the cable's a little short, but if I pull on it without having to re-cable manage it, I just need a little bit more, so I think I can get away with leaving it as it is and just giving the cable a slight tug. That's why you never want to over tighten your nylon zip ties, because if you change something and your nylon zip ties are super tight, You have to carefully cut them away without cutting into the wire, or you're not going to have a good time. So if you just leave them snug, you can still sort of pull a little bit of the cable out if something changes and you need just a couple more inches of cable. You don't want the cables to be too tight anyway, because the tension, the ongoing tension could walk the cable out of its connector, and then whatever you plugged in ain't plugged in no more. This is why I don't teach English classes. So what I'm going to try and do right now is get this motherboard aligned. Come on. That little grounding strap right there is being a little bit difficult. Carry wins. Carry 1, ground strap 0. Fight. Finish him. Looking good. Just want to make sure all the ports are visible back here, that like that grounding strap didn't fall or something's not aligned. And with that, securing the board into place. Mitch Morrison, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored that we have been graced by His Majesty of noble divinity, and his name is Nutty. Who did you think I was talking about? You want to say hello, Nutty? Hi, Nutty. That's really an old joke. All right, say bye, Nutty. Bye, Nutty. The hell out of here, Nutty. Am I grounded? Well, ask my mother. Just putting these screws in to secure the motherboard into position so it won't fall out when I bring this case back upright to show it to you. Rocket science, right? Two left. Nutty's back there sulking right now. He wants more screen time. He's upset the writers aren't putting in more spots for him. He thinks he's being phased out. Squirrels. See if I can align that camera a little bit better for you guys. Maybe if I do like that. So that's what the inside looks like. Thanks for telling us what we were looking at, Carrie. Well, you're very welcome. Now, this is super easy to finish up. A lot of people are intimidated by the cabling, which is just silliness. Nobody ever hooks up all the cables at the same time, right? Oh my gosh, that's a lot of cables. Yeah, but don't worry, we're just plugging in one at a time. So, like this one right here, see the cable management's already good to go. Just make sure you got it oriented in the right direction, which I do, and just slide it onto the connector. There's one less cable you got to deal with. This is your front port USB. It can go into either one of these connectors, but the cable management already has it aligned properly. I think it goes even in the same orientation it was in. I don't have to turn anything around. Two cables connected. Big motherboard power cable right here, this big 24-pin power cable. There's no other there's no other plug on a system that looks like this. So You can't plug it in the wrong place, and it only goes in one direction. But in this case, the cable management is too tight. So I will grab my wire cutters. And now it's time for a tip from your Uncle Kerry. You'll notice the wire cutters I use. Maybe you haven't. So let me get a little closer. Oh, maybe that's a little too close. So these wire cutters, look at how they're designed. If you want to snip off nylon zip ties, this is what you want to use. And you want to use this end. You see this end that's curved? That's so you can cut something without cutting into something. You understand? I don't have to worry about pinching my skin because I will feel it. So, by using these wire cutters, and by the way, these are on Amazon. They're like, I don't know, $6, $8. They come from Italy, I think. But this is what prevents me from cutting into the wires, as long as I make sure this curved end faces the cabling, and I don't want to cut. I don't want to cut straight in. I want to lay them flat. 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 And I never had any chance of biting into those cables. Lay it flat. Don't jam it in. It's not a pair of scissors. Also, don't use a pair of scissors. I mean, go ahead, and if you do, film it so we can all laugh. So you have to replace your power supply, or you're out there with some electrical tape and a soldering iron. That's hilarious. Okay. Prevention. Do it right, and you won't have to fix it. So I will redo this a little later. So I will have to redo a little bit of the cable management, but there's no room for these cables in the back of the case. If you look back there, you see that there's just these little things here, these little clips, which, you know, were pretty cool back in the day, but you only have about that much space to run any cable. So if I run a power cable back here, it's too fat. There's a little bit more gap right here, but honestly, there's no case window. Nobody's ever going to see it. My biggest concern is I don't want any of these cables to fall into the CPU fan and then cause perhaps an overheating situation, which, by the way, wouldn't happen anyway because this giant heatsink will passively cool this processor. The way that these customers use these computers, they'll never get that hot to begin with. So even if that fan did get obstructed and stopped spinning, they would never even overheat. Anyway, that's irrelevant. The idea is we just, regardless, don't want the fans intruding into, we don't want the fans. We don't want the wires to obstruct the fan. When you move the case around, sometimes the cleaning people come in and they move stuff around. Always blame the cleaning people. You see, the lower you get paid, the more often you're the one that's going to get blamed for stuff. That's how it works in the business world. The main person, the higher up you go, the less likely it's your fault. But you didn't know that about business. Fascinating how that works. I think it's fascinating. So when I grab my flashlight, I need a flashlight to find my flashlight. I found it. It's a Fifth Element reference, never mind. Okay. So we don't use any of these wires. None of these are being used. Don't care. This is our SATA cable for the optical drive, and I'm going to just plug that in. Oh, it's a little short. So guess what? I'm going to cut those wire ties. I'm going to do it the exact same way I've already done it. And let's go back to that camera over there. There it is. So you get another angle. And over. I have an angle. I can't get the wire cutters in there. This is in the way. So I've unplugged this. It took all of 2 seconds to unplug it rather than fight in this tiny space. Use your head. Flat. Flat. Never bit into the cable. That's going to go there. This is going to go like, I want to flip it in on itself. It won't matter. I'm going to have to take it back off when I cable manage it anyway. Getting that? That's on. And then we have the front port switches, the hard drive, the light, the power light, the reset switch, and the power switch. So once again, all these cables should not be intimidating. It's pretty straightforward. We do one cable at a time. So for power LED, this is a, see that, that's a 3-pin. Some power LEDs are 3-pin and some power LEDs, depending on your case. This light is not helping you guys, is it? See, that's 3-pin. See how there's a space between the green and the white? That's why there's, on all motherboards that I've ever seen, there's a power LED connector right underneath the speaker, way on the opposite side of what I normally do. I very rarely use it, but most motherboards provide a 2-pin power connector in the upper left and a 3-pin power connector in the lower right. Oh, didn't know that. You're welcome. Hard drive LED, positive cable goes to the left. Reset switch and power switch have no positive and negative, even if they say they do. They're liars. They lie. Just plug them in the right place, upside down or otherwise. As long as they're in the right location, you've done it right. We're done with the build. All I have to do is put a zip tie on this to make it look a little prettier, and put a zip tie on this and make it look a little prettier, and put the panels back on. This is ready to go to the customer. Oh my gosh, why did that take me so long to get around to doing? I don't know. I have lots of things going on. And if you have a lot of 10-minute things, or one 4-hour thing, it still adds up to the same amount of time. And that's called math. All right, now, just to prove I'm not all talk, let's fire this bad boy up, make sure that it powers on. Everything's hooked up. Front USB, front audio ports, power switch, reset switch, hard drive LED, power LED. All the cable management has already mostly been done except for the minor little tweaks I've got to do because the cables were a little short before. We're carrying over the same optical drive, the same power supply in the same case. This saves the customer a little bit of money. We're not hooking up the front fans. We don't need to. We're using onboard video, so we don't have to worry about the GPU shortage at all. And this has no impact on most people unless you are into gaming. Gaming is a very expensive luxury. And if you can afford it and you have the time sitting around to play games, good for you. While you're playing games, I'll be earning money, which for me is a different game. I'm still playing a game, but I get paid to play my game, and you pay to play your game. So you enjoy that. Wolfie Lotion contributes 250 Norwegian krona. He says, I just got home from work. I grabbed a cold can of beer and turned on YouTube, and Uncle Carrie's live. He continues, a perfect start of my 3 weeks of vacation. Here's something for your next favorite cold drink or two. I think 250 Norwegian kronas, like, what is, I think that's going to pay for more than a couple. 250 NOK to USD is $28.34 in United States currency. Yeah, that'll cover it. Thank you. Jason Willis with $5 says, Amazon Marketplace. I just got a new used USB Netgear Nighthawk at $30 off thanks to your suggestion, and it works as new. Of course it does. Thank God for the morons of the world, because those of us who know the difference can make a lot of money or save a lot of money because of them. So I'm probably doing a disservice to myself because you guys now know what to look for, and now I have to compete with you to buy stuff. But you know what? That's the kind of guy I am. I always put the needs of, mostly, sometimes, very rarely, on occasion, I put the needs of others ahead of my own. But I still do it, and it counts. Yeah. I want to fire this bad boy up. I want to show you something. All right, let's do this thing. And then this one will be done. I can bring up the next one. I'll do the cable management offline. It'll take, 5 minutes. So let me make sure it takes me 4 days. Switch off. Power. Ethernet. No, because Windows is already installed, I'm going to go ahead and plug the Ethernet in. Keyboard and a mouse. We have a keyboard and a mouse right over here. Hey, oh, by the way, you know what? I'm not going to use this keyboard. Amazon had this keyboard on sale, and I bought it because I said, wow, that's really cool. And I haven't had a chance to try it yet. But I like it's tiny. It's super tiny. It's wired. I don't have to worry about batteries, right? It's pretty much the same size. Well, maybe it's a little smaller. Does anybody read whatever language that is? Cantonese, Mandarin? Anyway, it may be crap. I don't know. Let's plug it in. Another thing that takes 30 seconds I haven't had time to do, so let's do it now. 2 birds, 1 stone. Where does that expression come from? When has anybody ever had 1 stone? Oh boy, I'm going to have to eat today. I hope I can get 2 birds with this. Just a weird expression. All right, so it tastes like wire tie. There's no lift, there's no feet. So I guess it's just going to sit flat. I can't tilt it. Whatever, it's cheap. What do you want? I got to plug the mouse dongle in, but I'm going to leave the keyboard powered off. Is that all right with you? And I'll plug it in right up here to one of these USB ports. That way I can test to make sure that these are working correctly as well. This even has an old FireWire port up there, but that's one of the wires. This is like the FireWire connector, because everybody wants that. All right, there's that. There's that. HDMI. HDMI. This'll do. HDMI. Just trying to find the end. Aha! I found it. Plug that in right there. Right there. That's all I'm plugging in. Nothing else. No printers, no flash drives, no speakers. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Besides, it's the first time it's being test fired in the case, but it worked outside of the case. So if it doesn't work now, something changed between the time it was out of the case and the time it was in the case, and then I can diagnose it much faster. You understand? Okay. Let's hit the power button. Well, let's turn the switch on the power supply. Now let's hit the power button. Rear fan is turning. CPU fan is turning. Let's go to the HDMI input. There it goes. And we're up and running. Whisper quiet, can't hear a word. A word? I can't hear a fan. Let me make my screen bigger. And let's see, is the mouse working? Yep, so the USB is working. How about this keyboard? Oh, this keyboard is, let me show you. It's glowing. I don't see any way to turn that off. What if there's a button? Aha, the M key has a little light on it. The K key has a mode. What do you push for mode? Function K. Ooh, now it's breathing. Function K. Lights are too bright in the studio. K, 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 K. What is this? Brightness? L says brightness down, and O is brightness up. So brightness down. Oh, good, that shuts it off. And O is brightness up. All right, let's just turn it off because it's really, really super annoying. But way cool. Squirrel. All right, back to the computer. Let me go full screen again. And let's see what the specs of this machine are. Properties. Here we are. Running Windows 10 Pro, 32 gigs of RAM, Core i7 9700K. It's really important that you talk like this. No, I guess it isn't. I've got Microsoft Word on here I eat my own dog food using the CDK deals. I use my own coupon code. Let me try this keyboard. How is the type on quick over the. You know what? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I like it. You know what? I think I have to put a link to this keyboard in the video notes. I think that's about the extent of that review. It's a keyboard. It does what a keyboard does. What else do you need to know? It's a keyboard. Tiny. It's super tiny. But the keys are a little more traditional versus the flat keys on these. But these are cordless and have internal batteries that I can recharge about every 4 months based on how I use it or how often I use it. And I suppose the only downside to this keyboard, as far as I can tell, is the individual keys don't light up. So if you can't see the letters and you don't know where the letters are, it's just lighting around the keys. So if you're in a dark room, that may not help you. But maybe it does. I'd probably have to read the directions, but you know, I can't be bothered. In the meantime, what I can do, this is off, right? Yeah, this is off. I'm going to go ahead and put the back panel on because there's no reason for me to postpone that. I'm done with this side of the case. There won't be anything else I need to do. This dongle needs to come out or I'll forget. Put it back in the mouse. And put that away. Yeah, let's just put this stuff somewhere else. I got to step around here anyway to get the side panel put back on. This has these flaps. I should probably dust that. Yeah, you know what? It's been a while. I have to go in the other room for a moment. And this is how you clean the dust off of a computer. Well, I'm going to rephrase what I'm saying. I don't know how you clean the dust off a computer, and nor do I even give a rat's behind. This is how I clean the dust out of a computer as a professional. And if you want to, learn from my experience, I'm offering that to you for free. And if you want to continue doing it a different way, I don't really care. And that's great for you. Trying to avoid comments. This is a washcloth. Yes, and what I've done is I've put it under the kitchen sink and I've soaked it, and then I've wringed it out so it's damp, but it's not dripping. And I'm going to wipe this, anything else that's dusty in here, since we're in here. No one's ever going to see this but me, but it makes me happy. Anytime there's a ridge, that's where the dust will collect. You don't need to use cleaners. You don't need to use Windex or other cleaners. I would say normally wait for this to dry before you put it back. But because this is the back panel, we don't have to worry about it short-circuiting anything like that. So we put those little flappy doodles. No, I still see dust on the flappy doodles. Clean that dust off. Just like that. And then when this gets kind of gross, you start seeing dirt on it, just run it under the sink again, wring it out, do that 2 or 3 times, use it again and again and again. Then when you're done for the day, throw it in the washing machine, along with the rest of your clothes. It won't hurt nothing. Use it on the outside of the case. We can do it on the top of the case. This motherboard box looking a little dusty. Yeah. Look at that. Practically Alice from the Brady Bunch over here with all my cleaning. Might be messy, but I'm not dusty. And while the washcloth is damp, let me grab it again. I put it away too soon. I always do that, don't I? At least I always know where it is. On this Leon Lee case, this front cover pops right off. Oh, look at here. I thought I heard something rattling around in there. Does anybody know what this is? Anybody? What this does is there's an LED that lights up here, and it shines through this tube to go to wherever the lights appear. They're going to be up here, I guess, on this one. And so that's used to shine. Oh, maybe is it? No, those are 2 LEDs right there. So those are the LEDs, and so this is going to line up with those 2 LEDs and then shine through on the front of the case right there. So otherwise, the lights are so bright, they would bleed into both. Both of these would light up with whatever color was brighter. So this kind of almost works like a little fiber optic, even though it's just a piece of plastic. It sort of works the same way, the same principle of keeping the light in the tube. And that way you don't have to mount the light to the bezel, and then it would be tethered by the wires, which you could rip out by mistake. We have a lot of dust buildup down here. We'll take that out. I think Leon Lee did a great quality job with these connectors and these metal pins. Most cases today are plastic pins. This is more like professional kitchen cabinetry, and this is why this case was a bit more money. This is all lightweight aluminum that's got a brushed look to it. I always clean the edges of this. And while we're in here, it only takes me a minute to take this optical drive out. Of course, I have to take the side panel off now. But you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. So let's do that. I'm just going to unplug this cable and this cable. Let me take the side panel back off. Because even though you don't have to secure the optical drives, I always secure them just because these are being transported. And even though they're being transported by me personally, sometimes customers move. And if the optical drive breaks free, I'm going to get a phone call. And there's probably going to be more damage than just the optical drive. So it's just a good practice. I'm all about prevention. Did I mention that? Prevention, not protection. Okay. So I've unplugged it. There's just one screw here on each side. That's how I do it. Take that out, because I can tell this thing is filthy. Now, it doesn't affect the operation. This is a matter of personal pride. Oh, I put 2 screws on this side. So even though you don't need these screws, that little latch will hold it in place. It could break free. It's possible. When I put the screws in, it is not possible. In fact, if I only put 1 screw in, it's not going to break free. But what happens if the customer pushes on one side, it'll kind of push in and they think something's wrong. So by putting both screws in, it completely secures the drive. So when I pull this lever, now the drive slides out, and it is filthy. You even see it's got like a weird mark on the front here. That should probably just wipe off. This is nothing more than water on a washcloth. Anytime there's a groove or a cutout, that's where your dust is going to be. You can see how old this drive is. Whatever that white thing is, as soon as it dries, it comes back. So that's interesting. I might have to get some. So for stuff like that, where this will start to turn white again. See, it's doing it now. Somebody may have put some tape on there or something at some point. I don't know what they did, but I'm probably going to have to get some. I'll try with a mild cleaner like Windex. Be careful with rubbing alcohol because you might take some of the black paint off. And then instead of having this, you're just going to have a faded area. So start with a little space first if it matters to you, just to see if it's creating an issue. This doesn't hurt anything, but you know it's a little tricky because when I wipe it down, it disappears. And then as it dries, it comes back as this, you know, really white. I don't know. Or we can just swap this out for another one for 20 bucks too, if it bothers you. But we're trying to save some money. We'll take care of that. While we're in here, we should clean these filters. Now, these fans have never run, ever. And yet, the filters have dust. Do you know why? Because these fans create suction. They're pulling air. And that means they're pulling air from somewhere, and the air, like electricity, will take the path of least resistance. The case is open and available in the front, and so the vacuum that's created pulls the air in specifically through these areas. Even though those fans aren't on, that's still where the biggest holes are. So to once again, just wipe it clean. It's probably only going to be dust on one side of it. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? It's just going to get dusty again. If you don't clean out the dust, then the air cannot flow as freely, and then you start starving the computer for air, which then can cause your fans to run louder because everything's running hotter. Oh, I see I see. I thought these went in either direction, but there's clips on one side. These little tabs go in these little holes like that, and you swing it like a door. There it is. There it is. Get in there and clean that well we can. Looks good. Looks good. Perfect. Customer won't even know I did that. That's all right. Prevention. Prevention. Only takes a second, cost us nothing but our time. And if we don't do the prevention, then it costs us more time, and it's typically more stressful because, oh my God, there's a problem. And with regards to this little plastic piece, how did this go in? It looks like it might have just glued in there. It looks like I had it backwards. The little nubby side of it goes in here in these holes. And unfortunately, it appears you just have to push it in as hard as you can, and be careful, because if you break those, good luck finding another one. And now those LEDs are going to shine through these little tubes and then come through on this end here, which is the back end of this connector. Remember, those were just holes before, but now you can see there's a little raised area. And if I want to really secure that, you can get a hot melt glue gun, and we can melt some glue right around there. And that'll definitely fix it forever. It'll never fall off again. Done. Put the screws back in the drive. Well, apparently that is stripped out. So let's go to the one above it. By the way, I don't even need this screw, but that one works. But it don't hurt to have it. Why not? Sometimes customer might want to add something there, but they've long since lost the case screws. So you can say, well, since I know the optical drive doesn't need all these screws, I'll take the extra 2 out of here that I don't need and put 1 on each side. And now you don't have to find screws. You can just steal from what's there because you installed some you didn't have to. But what you've really done is you've put them away where you can find them in the future if you need them. Prevention. It's all about prevention. Think ahead to the possibilities. Don't worry about, unlikely possibilities. Don't waste your time with worrying about things that are unlikely to happen. Things like this are more likely to happen the more you sell computers to customers. Maybe not to you personally, but to your customers. This is what customers do. It's not uncommon. Hey, you know what? Maybe I need to clean my screwdriver. Lord knows where my hands have been. I wasn't done with this. I want to put this side panel back on. Side panel. Time is it? 4:30? Okay, still got some time. Little screwdriver, it has a clutch on it. So it's turning off automatically. When you hear it go click, that means it's hitting the torque setting that I have here. It's on 3, which is snug but not over tight. And that enables me to ensure that all the screws are secured properly without getting repetitive stress disorders or carpal tunnel syndrome because of the number of machines I work on. I would certainly have that by now, if not for electric drivers. If you're a home user and you're just building one computer, you probably don't want to use one of these. It's expensive. They're about $140 for that one anyway. And it's very easy to cross-thread a screw and cause damage if you're not familiar with the way the screwdriver normally feels. Heck, I can still even sometimes cross-thread a screw. But it's an occupational hazard of carpal tunnel syndrome and repetitive stress. What is it called? Repetitive, you know what I mean. Anyway, that's how I justify my laziness. I mean efficiency. It's efficiency and it's prevention. Yeah, that. This one's good to go. I'm just a couple nylon zip ties and the panel. I'm going to change the date. It'll, instead of saying built July 2015, it'll say rebuilt July 2021. Actually, I think it said rebuilt on it because I think this was built in 2010 or 20. It doesn't matter. A long time ago. Okay, you get in line over here. Okay, who's next? This is next. That is definitely, you can, do you want to, anybody want to guess if that motherboard came in that box? Probably didn't. That box goes there. Oh, that was probably a used board I didn't get the box for. That would be my guess. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to borrow this box. I like to build on the boxes so I don't scratch up my countertop. This is the Core i9-9900K, 64 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte Intel NVMe SSD. Amazon has the 660p and the 665p from Intel. Today, they're $109.99 for 1 terabyte regardless. If you have a choice, the bigger number is the newer model. Newer generally means it's better. It may be a little faster, have better write endurance. Yeah. All right. I need a Corsair 200R to put this in. We're not going to put an optical drive. They don't use them anymore, or they use them very rarely. So they already have enough optical drives around other computers that they can just borrow for a second. They also have they bought 2 USB external DVD CD reader writers. They're like $30 on Amazon. So if they really need one and no computers are available that have an internal, they can just plug this in. They keep it in the supply closet. And as long as they put it back when they're done, other employees know where to find it. And as long as they put it back when they're done, we don't need to install optical drives and do the cable management and deal with repairs like the one I had the other day. The optical drive failed. It's a cheap $20 part. It's $125 in labor to replace it. Hey, look at that. There's a Corsair 200R. Where are the screws and stuff, though? Lucky for me, I have tons of those somewhere. Have them in here? Do not have them in there. Do I have them here? Ah! Yes, I do. I need the motherboard screws. Oh, I'm going to need a power supply. Motherboard screws. Nothing. Yeah, that's what I want. Is that why Carrie's so weird? He's doing drugs. Yeah. Thermal compound. It's very addictive. Don't get started. Really hard to quit that stuff. Come on, Finn's bent here. It's all right. That's okay. I'm not worried about stuff that doesn't matter. Don't obsess about crap that doesn't matter. Drives me crazy. Write cycles on an SSD, electrostatic discharge. Holy moly. Probably worried about getting polio too, aren't you? All right, so I need that little plastic standoff, don't I? Oh, I already did it. IO shield. Is this the right IO shield? I don't know. Can't remember. What is that? SATA cables? This IO shield's brand new in a bag. It's never been taken out. Richard S. contributes $2. He says, here's a little something for your dedication. Hey, Richard, thank you. It's nice when that's acknowledged. Huh, this one doesn't have the grounding strap. Is this not the right IO shield? Does this one go to the other board? Oh, I know why. It's because this board was returned and Amazon just put a compatible IO shield in it, but it's not the original. But it looks like, no, this is not the right IO shield. Watch carefully. Everything lines up. However, these two USB ports suddenly disappear. They're gone. Hey, and if you weren't paying attention, you may never, ever realize they're gone. So I don't think this came with this board. I think this came with, see, I knew this was going to happen to me. I knew I was going to get myself buried in so much work I couldn't keep anything straight anymore. I think, you know that little board I had out a minute ago? I think it goes to that one. Where did I put it? Put it over here. I think it goes to this board. Nope, because that's got 6 volume holes. That one only has 3. Doesn't go to that one. Huh. Did I pick the wrong board? This is a H370 HD3 board, yeah? Yep. So why is this the wrong? We look again. It's definitely wrong. It's definitely wrong. Is it in this box? Nope. It is most definitely, seriously, I'm so sick of these. I'm gonna just start putting them all in the recycle. I don't have the right IO shield for this. Did Amazon ship it to me that way and I just didn't notice until now? Or have I mixed up so many boards together that I've forgotten? Or did I already install it into a different Corsair 200R that's empty? That's a possibility too. Scale. See, the scale of the job you do can create new problems that people at home just don't understand because they're not in that situation. So because I'm dealing with so many different things and I am the only one, actually the fact that I'm the only one is a benefit, because if other people were moving stuff, that's like having one checkbook and then multiple people writing checks out of it. How are you going to know what the balance is? All right, let's see. Is it in this box? No. No. Wait. Aha! Oh, well. Yeah. Okay, so I haven't, no, this is it. I think I know what the problem is. I think this went to a B460. I have a B460 board over here. Does this one go to the B460? This is why I try to keep all of my piles organized. Yes, that's a B460 IO shield. How about if I do myself a favor and try and keep those two things together from now on? See, it doesn't have to be in a specific place. It just has to be together, okay? That's my rule for obvious reasons. Step back around over here and put the IO shield in. We got a runner. Welcome to your new home. I hope you enjoy the rest of your life there, because you ain't going nowhere until it's time for the end. Welcome home. I need a power supply. Now, you guys should know Amazon has a sale right now, right in this very moment. You want to know what it is? It's for power supply. Let me see if I can find it for you. Trying to find it. Found it. Wait, what's that? Okay. Are you ready? Check this out. Breathe. So much information I want to relay to you guys. I just want to puke it all out at once. Okay. Today is July 15th. It's currently 10 minutes to 5 in Phoenix, Arizona. This is on sale today, right now. Look. Read it to yourself. Why is the same power supply? Oh, this one is renewed and it's $2 less. This one is brand new, on sale. This is not the normal price. So that's why that renewed price. Get them where you can get them. There doesn't seem to be a purchase limit. So 5-year warranty, ladies and gentlemen. Little tip from your Uncle Kerry. There's a lot of little tips today. By the way, you're welcome. Your company's computer guy. There's going to be a lot of nerd references throughout. If you don't get it, it's not that I'm completely insane. It's that I'm referencing something you're not familiar with, but other people are getting it. I hope. So anyway, I need a power supply. And my drink is like way hot. So let me get a cold Gatorade and go back to picking a power supply. Let's see. I have a ton of power supplies here. So I don't know which one I want to use. Which one do I want to use? I really, really like these EVGA, these 500 watt. I mean, look, if there's a sale on, that's one thing. But these you can regularly buy at around $40 each. And I've been corrected properly by a viewer that the 500 watt power supply, they're telling me that that W stands for white, as in the 80 plus efficiency rating is white. There's bronze and there's gold and platinum and titanium and silver and bronze. Did I say bronze? White is like the lowest tier, but it's still 80 plus. So whether that's 500 watts or 500 white, regardless, I guess you could turn it this way, it'd be a 3 or an E, maybe even an M. I don't know, but I can tell you it's 500 watts and 80 plus certified, EVGA, maybe a 2-year warranty or something. This is not fully modular. When I sell customers, like businesses, fully modular power supplies, they always lose the extra cables. Or at the time I sold the computer, a couple years go by and they want to do something to the computer that I need another power cable, and nobody can remember where they put them. So my preference is to not use the modular power supplies for the business clients. And even for home clients, they lose them too, by the way. So why spend extra money for it only to end up, having that be a nightmare where you drive out to your client, you bring the hard drive they want installed, you go to install it, and they don't have the power, the modular cables. You can't just use any modular cables that fit because they might be wired differently and you might blow the whole thing up. So guess what I have to do? I have to go on Amazon, find the right power cables, order them, and say, I guess I'll see you next week. When I get the part, I'll come back. So I drive all the way back home. I order the part arrives, I call the client, we schedule another date for me to come out. I spend another half an hour in the car to get there, and then 2 minutes to plug the cable in. So how do you think I feel about modular power supplies? Now, if you're one of those people, and you have a window on your case and you want to make it all look pretty and show it off because what other people think matters to you, I'm sorry. Modular power supplies are the right choice for you. Don't let me get in your way and tell you not to buy it. I do admit that when I do builds and I want them to look good in front of the audience, I want to use a modular power supply. But I know where my modular power supply cables are because everything's in the proper pile. We've already discussed that. This is called prevention. I am preventing that problem from ever occurring with this computer build and that customer. Prevention. Not prevention of the improbable, and not prevention of the impossible, but the prevention of the probable. And that prevention changes probable to impossible. And if you give me a choice of, do you want there to maybe be a problem regarding this matter, or do you want to guarantee that that can never be a problem in order to run a sustainable business, to have happy customers? I think that's an obvious answer. That was the documentation, not the answer. Screws for power supply. Power cable for the power supply. Because this is a new build. So if it was an upgrade, they'd already have the power cable. Here, hold that for me, will you? Fan goes down. Fan pulls air in and blows it out the back. All these people, that case runs 3 degrees hotter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because it has no impact on the power supply. You see, power supply is a fully enclosed ecosystem. Doesn't matter what the airflow of the case is. It's completely irrelevant. It has no impact. And yet, this is a pretty important part of the system that if it gets hot, you should be concerned about. If anything else gets hot, doesn't really matter. There are safeguards that prevent your CPU from burning out. There's no safeguards that prevent this power supply from burning out. And yet, all these people obsess online about their CPU temps. They obsess about the airflow of the case. And yet, this fully enclosed ecosystem is in and of itself much more fragile, much more likely to have a heat problem if it's not properly ventilated. Like if you don't clean the filter, if your case has one, or if you put your case on carpeting where it can't breathe. And so people are ignorantly bliss that they have spent all this money on fancy cooling and cable management and a modular power supply. And their power supply is overheating, it's drawing way more power, costing them a lot more money in electricity cost. And it's suffocating, and they're blissfully unaware of it. And will tell you, look at how cool my temps are. This is the world we live in, people. They're everywhere. They surround us. Just hope they don't ever outnumber us, okay? I mean, they're pretty loud, which, you know, is there to give you the illusion that they are many, but they're not that many. They're just really, really loud. And they want you to become one of them. They're like heat zombies. Really weird. This world has become so weird. Anyway. If we focus on what matters, I know that's kind of an unusual twist online. With power supply in with the fan down, we make sure that that filter gets cleaned from time to time. And we make sure that the case is got some space. Doesn't matter how much, just any space at all. Because, you know, air's pretty thin, but so you don't suffocate it. Because the power supply came with its own screws, I prefer to use, as long as they're the same color, right? The case is black, the screws are black. If the power supply came with silver screws, then I default back to the screws the case came with. But of course, the power supply manufacturer wants you to use their screws. They've been engineered together. Not that it's a big difference, and it's minutia that probably doesn't really matter. Because I've already paid for them, because they're screws and they're here, I might as well use them as they're intended. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Take the path of least resistance, use the things that have been included with other things so that you don't run into unexpected issues. Not that you would. But again, if I use other screws, there is a improbable possibility that I run into a fitment issue. If, for example, the screw is too long and it shorts out against the inside of the power supply, that would be bad. If I use the screws that are included, I am guaranteeing that won't be a problem, that the screws won't be the wrong thread, they won't be too long. It's prevention. All of everything I do is based on prevention. Without prevention, I have warranty calls. Now look, I'm going to get warranty calls anyway. I can't stop a part from failing, but I can do my best to ensure I don't cause it. And that reduces my support calls, I'd say, by 90%. 90% in my business. You think I started building computers this way? No. I thought that crap didn't matter. And after I started losing a ton of money in warranty calls to go back and make it right, I said, gee, Kerry, wouldn't it make more sense if you just, I mean, if it's just a screw anyway, why not just use the one that came with it? Then they won't call you for that problem. Anyway, after 30 years of doing this, this is the kind of stuff that only you can really only learn this from somebody from experience. The people who write the books are the people who have done it, right? If you want to learn how to be a surgeon, you don't start from scratch. You learn from other surgeons. Most of this, that's what makes the human beings so special. We're able to take what we know and pass it on to the next generation. And so this thing called evolution occurs on a bigger scale than any other animal on the planet. Because as far as I know, we're the only animal on the planet that can pass our knowledge on. If I spend all this years training a dog, and that dog is the smartest dog ever, when that dog eventually dies, I have to start all over again with another dog. If I get another dog while the other dog is still alive, that other dog can't really train it. Maybe a little bit, but it can't, you start all over again. So humans, we have this ability to share knowledge. And when one human dismisses the knowledge of another human, they're only hurting themselves, right? So that's a choice we each make. You decide what information is valuable to you. But that's why I do this for free. I don't want people to have to pay to get this information. But knowledge is very expensive. If you don't believe me, find out how much a semester at a major university in America costs. One semester, on average, how much do you think that costs? And quite often, from what I'm told, people that take classes in computers are not getting the level of the detail and level of education I'm giving you guys for free. That's what I've been told. So you can read about it. You can watch videos about it. But until you do it, you'll never really have the knowledge. You have the theories. And your interpretation of those theories may lead to problems I never had. I can't teach you about problems I never had. I can only teach you how to avoid the problems I've had, which leaves you to make which leaves the problems for you that I never had. Does that make any sense? I think it makes sense. I can teach you how to avoid the problems I've experienced, which leaves you the problems I haven't experienced. We don't live in a problem-free world. But you won't have any problems if you never get off your butt and actually put any of this into practice. But that doesn't stop people from forming an opinion and self-proclaiming themselves as experts. Okay. Clear. Once again, I better make sure I get that 8-pin power connector on this board before I secure it. And I also want to go ahead and cable this rear case fan to the cable management now, because I won't be able to get in there to do it. And lately, I got to tell you, I've been cutting up my hands being lazy and not taking the fan out. And it's so much easier to cable manage that fan when it's removed. And I have a power driver. Would you like to count how many seconds it takes me to remove the fan versus how many minutes I spend struggling when I don't remove the fan to do what I'm about to do? It's a massive difference, by the way. And I don't know why I keep doing it. But this is what I should be doing, because even though it feels like it's more work, it's faster and it's less work. How long did that take? Where'd that screw go? I don't know where it went. See it. Gotcha. So with the fan out now, I can easily, I can estimate about how long of cable I need. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than this. So low bar. Oh, let's see if I missed any contributions. If I missed your contribution, please let me know. Paul Baxter with £2 says, great work you do, Carrie. Hey, thank you, Paul. Appreciate your kind words, my friend. So Drapko says, today albums are the most of 10 songs. It is ridiculously to sell them on 16G memory card. There's some discussion in the chat room. He says they're not new accounts. He's using a trick to bypass the moderator system. No, he isn't, Zen. Those are all different accounts. These people are not very smart people, Zen. If they were that smart, they'd actually have a job. No, they're just creating the same account name and same profile photo, because unfortunately YouTube allows them. YouTube's verification system for users is good for YouTube because it barely exists. YouTube can tell advertisers that we've got 10.2 billion registered users, and the advertisers go, that's wonderful. Nobody ever stops to think there's not that many people on the planet. I mean, how can YouTube have more users than there are people on the planet? So it's a form of manipulation that YouTube plays dumb to in order to justify selling their advertising for more money because they have more viewers. When in fact, one viewer may have 20 or 30 or a countless number of accounts because there's no authentication system in the verification system. It's very easy to fool it. So no, they're not doing anything to bypass it. They're just stupid people. I mean, the level of stupidity that these people are, I can't even begin to explain. But essentially, if you take the knowledge of a newborn child, they're just slightly above that, just a little bit. I promise you, they're not bypassing anything. They're creating an illusion, and they want you to believe exactly what you said. And they find that humorous, that you would be so gullible as to believe that. They think that's hilarious. So, just so you know. You'll see it over and over again on YouTube. It's a mindless thing, and it's very easy to do. It's very common. I have no respect for it because it's just so stupid, unoriginal, uncreative, complete waste of time, accomplishes nothing, and don't fall for it. In the meantime, if YouTube wants to play that game, so can I. I can say, look how many more views my video had. Every time somebody does that, it adds to my views. Makes my video look more popular. The more popular my video is, the more YouTube's algorithms recommend it and suggest it to other viewers. So they're helping me. You realize that, right? Because they're too stupid. They can't what they're doing is boosting my view numbers. So if you wanted to punish a content creator, you don't watch their video. Even if you want to click the thumbs down, you still have to click on the video that counts as a view. So by clicking the thumbs down, you boosted the video by 1 view. And if you create 100 different accounts and do that thumbs down 100 different times, you just boosted the views by 100 more views. That means it's worth more to advertisers. And YouTube's algorithms are more likely going to recommend it, which leads to more actual users watching. That's one hell of a way to punish me. As you can see, I'm really upset by it. That's the brilliance of stupid people. I'm getting motherboards that are returned from people who didn't know what they were doing, CPUs, cases, fans, all returned and discounted. Sometimes it's because somebody was stupid. Like returning a motherboard because they changed the date in the BIOS, didn't realize they fat fingered it, didn't realize they never had to do that to begin with. Then they can't get the system to work, so they spend hours diagnosing it, conclude there's something wrong with the motherboard, and send the motherboard back. They get another motherboard, it fixes the problem, and they go, see how smart I am? Then a guy like me comes along, buys that discounted motherboard they returned. I change the date, and everything works fine. And they never know. They just keep telling themselves how smart they are because they don't get the feedback that, hey, you know that motherboard you're returning? All you had to do is change the date, dummy. So they remained in this world of delusion without correction or updates, which further encourages them to continue that behavior. This is the world we live in. I'm not going to put this in yet because it will make it easier for me to get my hand in here without this in the way. I can tell you that the people who try to cause the most harm inadvertently are the most helpful. That person that tried to swat me, because of them, I can never be swatted again. These people that create 100 accounts or whatever on YouTube, YouTube security is watching my videos. They're aware of this type of harassment that happens during my live feeds. And they have promised me that they're monitoring it and they will get with their developers to fix that hole. So the more people keep taking advantage of that exploit, the more obvious it becomes to YouTube. It's like shoplifting, right? Somebody might shoplift and they get away with it, so they're like, I'll do it again. And then maybe they'll take something a little bigger, they'll be a little more bold. And this could continue for a while, depending on just how bold. What do you think ends up happening? Sooner or later, what do you think happens? If you don't quit when you're ahead, you're going to go down, and you're going to go down big time. Because by then, you're stealing things that are far more valuable because you're so bold. That changes a misdemeanor potentially to a felony, and you're doing mandatory jail time. Now you have a record that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And as you mature and get older and realize what an idiot you were, you'll realize nobody wants to hire you. And that you just screwed yourself. You didn't screw the business. You screwed yourself. Nobody sitting in jail ever thought they'd get caught. Because, they're smarter than that. They're not one of those people. Of course, I'm referring to the people that are actually guilty. I realize there's probably some people in jail that just didn't have a good enough attorney. But overall, They knew what they did was wrong. They were confident they weren't going to get caught. They got caught, and now they're sitting in jail. And when I mentioned that we can teach each other from our own experience, this is why we can evolve so much quicker than other animals. Everybody sitting in jail didn't learn a thing from people that have already spent time in jail before them. Because they didn't listen, because they didn't accept the advice, it's not my consequence. That's their consequence. I don't really care. The whole psychology of it is fascinating to me. They think they're harming the other person, and they're completely oblivious that they're harming themselves. And if in fact they are harming somebody by theft, it's a temporary thing. When they get caught, it stays with them for the rest of their lives. It stays on their record. What are you going to do? So let them. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. I got no problem with it. Now, I've got the power supply in, and I did not connect the 8-pin power cable because I was too busy in my own little world of fascination of human behavior that follows no form of logic or reason beyond delusion. It's preposterous, and I find it confusing. But because I've left this fan out, I should be able to, I think I've got enough room to get in there now. We got 621 people watching live. It's 20 after 5 here in Phoenix. Probably going to have to wrap this up after this build because I have some errands that I need to run. So let me see if I can focus back on at least getting this done, powered up. I think this board has already got everything installed on it, just like the last one, but I need to double check because I can't remember anymore. Too many systems, too many different configurations. I was hoping that I would be able to reach in here, that I would have enough room, but I don't. So I'm just going to take those 5 screws back out real quick and back the board out. Just got 2 into my conversation. So Zdravko contributes 100 HRK. He says, Carrie, thanks for spotting me in the chat. Well, thank you, Zdravko. Zdravko's been watching the channel for quite a long time. He's also a very generous member of our community and very friendly. Say hi to Zdravko, everybody. Seriously, he's a good guy. All right. Let me just take this out real quick. You can count how long it takes me to take this board out versus how long it would have taken me to stubbornly struggle to get that cable on. I promise you, I could get that cable on without taking the board out, but this is still faster. Even dropping the screws and picking them up, this is still faster. The rest of these screws I can put away so I don't confuse myself and wonder why I have extras. That over there. So now I can simply move the board back and down. Now I should be able to much easier, more easily attach the CPU. See, I'm lifting the board up, and that gives me better access to it. You don't have to leave the board down and then fight with it. The beauty of the board no longer being attached means I can lift up on it and give myself easier access to that little corner where CPU power goes. Now I have to set it down to push down on that connector. It's seated, it's lined up, but it's not pushed all the way in because it's hard to hold the board while pushing the opposite way. So I'll let the board sit flat, and now I'll push down and feel that click. Now I can put the board back in and then re-secure it one more time. In fact, before I do that, I can go ahead and hook up the fan. Now, the fan doesn't have to go on that fan header. There are other fan headers that we can use. They're all the same. But I always want to use the fan header that's closest to me. And we're going to put the fan in like this. And put the connector on. And once again, I can lift the board out. It's going to be, you know, tethered to the power cable. But if I lift the board out, then suddenly being able to connect this is much, much easier than trying to fight with it in the restrictions of the case. Now, if I used a smaller heatsink, like if I had the original, if I was using a standard OEM fan and heatsink, this would not be a problem. This does sort of make the build a little bit more difficult, but it does ultimately result in a cooler running CPU, and the fan is much quieter than a stock manufacturer's fan. Because they ain't in the fan business, you know, they're making CPUs. Fans just sort of they give you the bare minimum of what you need to keep the fan within its specifications of temperature. We want to make sure we're putting the fan in the same direction so air is blowing out the case. We don't want the rear case fan blowing air in, where the CPU fan is blowing air out and they're hitting each other. Then you have what we call a dead spot, where basically no air is moving at all, and then that's where you're going to have a heat problem. Don't over tighten your fan screws. There's little rubber grommets on here, and they're to prevent vibration. If you squish those rubber grommets down and they're like squeezing out the sides of the screw, not only is that not good for the grommet, it reduces its ability to reduce vibration noise. Want to make sure that little grounding strap, now that I've done this 3 times, it's easy to forget since I checked it previously, but since I took it back out, you have to check it each and every time. I mean, you don't have to. I mean, you can completely have to redo the whole thing if you want to, but I strongly recommend you check it each and every time. The internet's very literal, so I have to say everything literally. That's the world that we live in now. That's done. So I can bring this up, hook up our front port umbilicals. We'll do a test fire, see where we're at on that. And of course, I'll do the cable management offline. Again, we're not putting an optical drive in here. And I will not be hooking up the front case fan because there's no discrete graphics card to cool. Keep stepping on this stuff. Let me get it out of my way. Just the plastic bags and stuff that I threw down there. So now, let's see, what do I want to do first? USB, super easy. That's going to go, we can run it through here or here. It's done. Front port audio is right here. To make sure that's routed around the other cables so it's not going to tangle up or intertwine. And on these short EVGA power supplies on the 200R, I have this little gap. I can, piece of hair. We can put that right into that little gap right there. Grab it from there. And it plugs in here. This only goes on one way. You cannot put it on upside down. It's not possible. So that's on. And then the last thing we have to hook up right here is our, once again, front port power switch, reset switch, power LED, and hard drive LED. I often need my glasses on this part because it is a tiny little pin that we're hooking on to. So we'll put the reset switch here, only because I just happened to grab the reset switch. I wasn't looking for it. I just said, which do I have, you know? I know where that goes, but that'll get in the way if I put it. So this is the power switch. That'll go right above that reset switch. Just like that. And then there's the hard drive LED. Plug that on with the positive cable facing the edge of the end of the connector. And then the power LED goes right above that, positive, also at the edge of the connector. This one's sort of become untwisted, so I'll just twist it back, follow the same twisting memory that the cable's got there, and then that makes our cable management a little easier when I do that later on. So I want the positive cable on the left, the negative cable on the right. If I face the words up, I don't have to wonder which one's positive and negative. That's why I keep the words facing up. It doesn't matter if the words are facing up, but that just ensures I can see what that is. The rest of this will get wire tied up or zip tied up and then zip tied through the holes in the bottom of the case. So if the customer ever wants to add anything in the future, we don't have to worry about where the power cables went. We're ready to power it on. This is it. We're done. These are all extra screws. Put them back where they were. We'll put the power cable in there too. And let's see. I need HDMI. Okay. More hair. Power. Switch is in the off position. Keyboard and mouse is what I need next. There's my mouse. I'll plug it in. Oh, this case looks like it's got some marks on it. Okay, well, that's all right. I'll switch this out. I have a spare. Not a big deal. Some customers care about stuff like that, some don't. But I saved these extra panels because you never know when you might need them. This one's got all, I'll show you the difference. I don't know why that's marked up. It almost looks like someone took a Sharpie and wrote on it. But it's got marks all over it. So we'll throw that in the trash. We'll replace it with this one. Fixed. It's all fixed now. See how I fixed that? I'm a freaking genius. I still see some of those same markings right up in here. I don't know what that was caused from, but I think it'll be okay. If my customer complains, I can probably contact Corsair. Oh, I see some right here too. I can contact Corsair and I can get this whole front bezel. But customers often hit this with the chair because they keep this on the floor. So I'm gonna just pretend like I didn't see it. And if the customer complains, I'll take care of it. And if they don't complain, everything's fine. This customer's local, I'm not shipping it. And they have about 13 or 14 other computers of mine, and they've scratched them up pretty bad. So I don't think they're gonna mind. But if they do, like, I'm not gonna draw their attention to it. But if that's an issue, which I sincerely doubt it will be, I'll just get a new front for it. But I think this was a returned product, and that's why it had that. That's okay. It was worth the discount. I need a keyboard. Oh, I'll just use this one again. Okay. All right, power switch on. We'll hit the power button here. We'll make sure that the LEDs come on, which they have not. Why are my LEDs not on? Uh-oh. My power LED is not on. Let me double check and make sure I plugged it in correctly and that it's fully seated. There it goes. And what about my hard drive LED? It's not blinking. Okay, it's blinking now. So this is the 9900K with 64 gigs of RAM. So I think this is one already got installed and everything. So let's switch to the HDMI input. It should well be in Windows right now. Let's see. Yeah, it is. And let's do this. Let's see how long this is going to take to boot, because we didn't get to see it, you know? So we'll go full screen here. Well, full screen for me. It's already full screen for you. And we'll go restart. And let's see how long this boot takes. Anybody want to time it? You can start your clock now. Is this in UEFI mode? S info 32. We in UEFI? BIOS mode, UEFI. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Right click properties. Is this the 9900K? It is. 64 gigs. Yes. Windows 10 Pro, 21H1. Do I have Office installed on here? I do. It's activated. Good. Everything's good, baby. Yeah. It's almost like I knew what I was doing. And that's something. Let's go ahead and shut this down and we'll go back to camera one. There it is. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to address them. We're going to wrap this video up in the next 20 minutes. It'll be 6 o'clock in the evening here, and that's a good time for me to wrap it up. I have other work I have to do, but at least I was able to get these ready to rock and roll. A little bit of cable management involved here. Put the side panels on, put the date on the side. They get TeamViewer and Malwarebytes, and then they're delivered to the clients. And then once they're delivered to the clients, we configure their email, we configure their printers, and we configure their networking so that they can access everything on the network, which is unique to each office. And after that, probably shouldn't hear from them for years with regards to any computer-related issues, statistically speaking. So, questions? Any technical questions? If not, we will wrap this video up earlier. It does take about 90 seconds from when I speak to when you hear me, so I do have to stall for time to wait for people to respond with questions. Richard Angeline contributes $5. He says, I just want to help. It does help, and I thank you for that. If I've missed an earlier contribution, please let me know. I apologize that while I've been focused on work, I cannot simultaneously watch the chat. Chris Johnson earlier contributed $10. He says, good evening, Carrie. I'm a kinesthetic learner. Is that a word? So in order for something I learn to make sense to me, I have to get my hands dirty. Thank you for showing me how to assemble PCs correctly. Kinesthetic. Probably not pronouncing that word correctly. You're a hands-on learner. That's all you had to say. Too many syllables. Thank you for your contribution. And I'm the same way. For me to fully comprehend something, I've got to get elbows deep in it. So we are birds of a feather. Yes, if you enjoy the content and you feel like being a nice person, click the like button. There's a little thumbs up. If you're not full screen, you'll see it. But yeah, just click that like button. And it's a nice thing that you can do. It costs you nothing. You can be kind and it's completely free. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe. Sometimes I make the chat only available to subscribers of a certain length of time. And that helps avoid some of the nonsense we saw a little earlier today. And thank you to my friends in blue for taking care of that for me. I appreciate that, so I didn't get distracted from what I was doing. I appreciate your help very much. And you exercised very good judgment today, as you do normally. Tom Jackson contributes $7.77. He says, just because. Just cause? Just because there's nothing better to do. Hey, if there's nothing better to do than give me $7.77, I'm okay with that. Thank you. Thank you for your support and your ongoing generosity, Tom. Stealth Mode contributes $5 and he says, here's just a little something for the channel. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate you. And that was from Stealth Mode. Luke Greenia says, Carrie, I just deposited $50 via PayPal toward the ransom, my friend. Whew, that's an expensive ransom. He says, thanks for keeping it real. Thank you, Luke. Sincerely, I appreciate your patience as well. Let me get these paid customers out of the way and we'll get back onto those freebies, because I'm getting buried in computers, and if I don't give them away, it's not going to be pretty for me. Kevin Smith wants to know, out of all the computers that you own, is your current streaming computer my favorite? He's referring to this box right here. No. Sorry, but no. My favorite is not working right now because I haven't finished it. That's that big robot's, well, Mitch Morrison refers to it as the robot's foot, but it's the big Cougar Conquer case. And after I take care of my paying clients and I meet my commitments for the free computers I'm giving away to the very generous viewers that I have here, then I will go back to take care of myself and go back to work on that RGB computer. Also, the Xenos build is also one of my favorites. The Spaceship is one of my favorites. The tubular computer is totally tubular. It's one of my favorites. The little mini helicopter case is one of my favorites. The big helicopter case is one of my favorites. Thready's Revenge and that big Antec Torque 2 case is one of my favorites. My Nuka-Cola build, which I still haven't finished, which is back at Studio A, it runs beautifully. I just have to do the cable management on it. It's an Intel 8086K. It's a very rare processor. So even though it's a couple generations older, it's very rare, and that makes it special. The processor in this is a 9900KS. That's also something that makes it special. But this is one of my favorites, but it is not my favorite. So far, out of all the computers I have to tell you the Xenos is my favorite. That's right on the top. Thready's Revenge, oddly enough, would be my second favorite, and it'd be almost a tie between that and Robot's Foot. Beyond that, I have some builds coming up that might just be the new king of the hill. But they all work perfectly, whether they're my favorite or not. It's mostly an aesthetic, not necessarily the hardware that makes them my favorite. Dan Nilsson says, thank you for another good video, Carrie. Hey, Dan, thank you. Pablo wants to know, have your customers ever watched you put their PC together? Most of the time, customers watch me. It's very rare when a customer doesn't. Joel Flores says, thanks to you, I built 4 computers for my business and my son. Wonderful, Joel. Thank you for letting me know. You're just encouraging me. I love to hear that. Surfer in the Net Computer Repair says, hello, Carrie. Hi, Surfer in the Net. Good to see you. Sherry McFarland joins us and reminds us that if you want a parts list put together, she'll be happy to do that for you for free. Just reach out to her here in the live chat so you can figure out how you two can talk privately. She's in Colombia, so chances are it ain't going to be over the phone. Stealth Mode contributes $5. Oh, I said that one already. He says just a little something for the channel. Matthew Camp 915 contributes $1.99, and he says, hello, Carrie, and everyone in the chat. Jaitesh says, Carrie, I like this new method of different. Thank you, Carrie, for showing real work. As always, I have clicked that like button to show support and for participating in the chat. Thank you, Jaitesh. I appreciate that. I still will change, whether, look, if people said, hey, we really liked it, that's good to know. But that's not going to be the new standard. At least that's my intent. But I'm always trying different things to have variety because I don't like to do the same thing over and over and over again. So I thought I'd do something a little different today. I was going to do this off camera. Obviously, I would have gotten it done a little bit. Probably would have done it in half the time. I even said turn some music on because I was going to focus on doing this, but I kept. It's like so inherent when I'm live to keep people entertained. I have to practice more at that to actually, or I have to turn the camera on without going live and record it and then just post it and go, here, you can watch this. Then there's nobody to talk to. But I ended up talking and explaining things anyway. So much for that idea. But I appreciate your kind words. Thank you for that. Sherry McFarland says, those builds are all too cool. Did I say Sherry McFarland was putting the lists together? I meant Catherine Anna Hauserman. I think I said Sherry McFarland. I think I screwed up. Catherine Anna Hauserman. I made a mistake. We have like 2 females that watch the channel. No, we have more than that. But I don't know many as well as I know, or as I'm not as familiar with other females who watch the channel. And for some reason, I thought one thing and said another thing. So let me start again. Sherry McFarland has created some wonderful thumbnails for the channel, and I've offered to pay her. She's like, oh, no, this is my contribution. Okay, thank you. And Catherine Anna Hauserman is in Colombia, and Catherine has for many years offered to do parts lists for people who want to build their own computer but aren't quite sure what parts to buy based on what they want the computer to do or how they want the computer to look and how much money they have to spend. Now, most people will charge you for that service. Catherine does it for free. So if you want to take Catherine up on that offer, please reach out to her during a live chat. She's in there now. And if you want to say thank you to Catherine for her contributions to the community, or say thank you to Sherry for her contributions to the community, that would be a nice gesture on your part, whether or not you take up Catherine on her offer now. She's done this for many years. I thought for sure Catherine would get burned out by now and wouldn't want to do it anymore, but she's still loving it. So, because she doesn't charge anything, she's not obligated, and she could stop doing it at any time. So if you're thinking about building a computer and you want a free consult, I see I did it again. Catherine does excellent research to know that all the parts all fit together, including what parts are available in your country using your currency to fall within your budget. I'm not aware of anybody who does that for free or who does it as well. So that's Catherine Anna Hauserman in the chat room. And my apologies to both Catherine and Sherry. Obviously, nothing was meant by it. Brain was thinking one thing and mouth said something else. That can get me into a lot of trouble if I'm not careful. Hey, there's John Wilson. He contributes $50. He says, for whatever you need, postage or whatever. John, call him Jack. I haven't seen you in a while. I was getting a little worried. I was about ready to give you a call, see if you were okay, or see if I did something to upset you. So I'm glad to see you in there, and thank you so much for your continued support. I appreciate that very much. I've got about 8 minutes before I want to wrap up. So again, if you have a question, we have just a little bit of time left. Catbird Feeder says, me a girl, love you, Carrie. Right on, Catbird Feeder. There's also Crystal. I know we have a few more female viewers. It's just not too common. And in IT in general, it's often uncommon to find females in this line of work, just like a mechanic. You don't find too many female mechanics. So they stand out a little bit because of that, because of the rarity. And I don't understand necessarily why that's the case. I think it's a cultural thing. But I appreciate all of you equally, regardless. Joseph Zins, and when I say all of you, I mean both males and females, not just all of you females. Trying to avoid any misinterpretation of my words. Joseph Zins contributes $5. Hey, Carrie, do I need a UPS? I've heard you mention they fail after a few years, and I normally unplug in a storm. Do surge protectors actually protect? You know, I'm pretty sure I did a quick tips video on this. Let's take a, can I take a look at that? Let me see. Let's see, let's go to YouTube. Let's go to YouTube. And let's type in YouTube search, Carrie Holzman is one word, space, UPS. Let's see what happens. Apparently that's not a very good search because it's pulling up all my videos. Carrie Holzman, maybe uninterruptible. It's too hard to spell. There's Carrie Holzman, power supply. It's talking about power supplies, power supplies. Pretty sure I did a video on this. Let's do Carrie Holzman space quick tips. Quick tips. Yeah, now I got a lot of quick tips coming up. Well, I guess I'm going to have to find the quick tip video and retitle it, because if I can't find it, how are you supposed to find it? Essentially, uninterruptible power supplies, they have batteries in them, no different than your car. And whether or not you use your car battery will die within 3 to 5 years. You can drive your car every day, or your car may sit in a garage for 6 months. Regardless, your car battery will need to be replaced within 3 to 5 years. Here in Arizona, about 3 years is about the most you typically get out of a car battery. Sometimes you get lucky. Also depends if you're parking the car in direct sunlight, if you garage the car, you know, how hard the weather's beating on it. When a battery in a car fails, it's usually when the weather changes. So when we start going into our colder weather, or when we're coming out of the cold weather and then suddenly the days are getting hotter, that's traditionally when the car battery will start to fail. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So UPSs are also using the same lead acid battery technology as a car. They're very heavy. So whether or not you use the UPS or you don't, you will need to replace the battery about every 3 to 5 years. If you don't replace the battery, then ironically, the UPS quite often will cause your system to reboot randomly and shut off randomly. And that's the very thing you're trying to avoid when you put a UPS in. And anytime you deal with batteries, there's a potential for a fire if the battery should short out, or if the supplier of the battery, like let's say you bought a UPS, and then 3 years later you thought, I'm going to replace this battery before I have to replace the battery. And you went on eBay or somewhere and you bought the cheapest battery you could find. And then you install that and you pat yourself on the back since you didn't have to replace the UPS. You swap the battery out. You're supposed to recycle that battery. Do not put it in the trash can. It is terrible for the environment. And they're heavy and it's a pain in the butt. And then everything's working fine for a while and your whole building burns down. The fire marshal then says, it looks like the fire started here. What was this box? This was an uninterruptible power supply. Well, that's the cause of your problem. So in any case, insurance should take care of it, but losses are still losses. So when you're buying batteries, be very cautious on something that's that big. Those are pretty serious batteries. Only plug things into it that are required, such as your monitor in your computer, maybe a modem and a router or a switch. Do not plug in a laser printer. Don't plug in your speakers. Don't plug in anything that's going to drain that battery during a power outage. So you might get, if you just have a computer and a monitor, an LCD monitor versus a CRT monitor, CRT is going to draw more power. You might get 15 minutes out of a cheap UPS. And they often have a USB cable you can plug in so that if you leave your computer on, as I recommend, and the storm comes in or whatever, for whatever reason, a car hits a pole, you lose power, the UPS software should be running in the background of the computer, and it will give you the health status of your UPS. And the UPS says, we just lost power, shut everything down. And the computer will then close your applications, close all the open files, and properly shut off to avoid any file corruption. And it will stay off until you turn it back on. If you happen to be using the computer and you lose power, the software should pop up and tell you it's going to shut down. Tell you how many minutes approximately you have left. I don't suggest you believe it. A lot of the Chinese knockoff batteries also don't have the same battery life. So if you were getting 15 minutes from an OEM manufacturer battery, from the Chinese manufacturer, you might only get 6 minutes. But hey, you save money, right? Because it's the same battery. It was just cheaper. It's not the same battery. It's inferior, and it's if there's going to be a battery fire, it's more than likely a battery that comes from China. Most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. So you want to make sure you're getting an authentic manufacturer's battery. And if the authentic manufacturer's battery is made in China, then it's meeting that manufacturer's requirements. Not all Chinese factories do. So just because it comes from China doesn't automatically make it bad. But if there's a choice, one's made in Japan, one's made in China, I would pick the Japanese product. It's just better. Overall, just a better product. And even folks there will tell you the same thing. They will tell you. Gigabyte, for example, or other motherboard manufacturers will emphasize their boards are made in Taiwan, or the circuit board is printed in China, but the board is assembled in Taiwan, and they will tell you why that's important. And it involves the level of quality that they're able to get there that is very hard to enforce. Many companies have a hard time enforcing their requirements in China for whatever reason, I don't know. Apple seems to do okay with Chinese manufacturing. So again, there are good products that come from China, but it's typically dictated by price. And as we all know, anything that's got the word Apple on it is going to cost you more, regardless of where it's made. So my preference is, if you're going to have a UPS, if I were you, I'd get a label maker and I would print the month and the year. So July 2021. By July 2024, I'd start looking to replace that battery before you need to. I wouldn't wait for the battery to start to fail, because then you're going to have to put a battery in it or disconnect it. If you do it proactively, you can pick what day, you can pick what time, so it doesn't interrupt your otherwise, whatever plans you had. And you have time to shop around for the best price. And if it's 2 weeks before it arrives, who cares? Because you don't need it right now. And when it arrives, then you can plug it in and take the other one and recycle it, even though that other one may have some life left in it. If you want to, be reactive and deal with it when it happens, and then have to wait if they're all out of stock until it gets shipped to you, it's heavy to ship a battery. That's your choice. But for me personally, I would be proactive in all my customers that have UPSs. I require them to either replace those batteries in 3 years or to remove the UPS entirely. That's the rules. If the clients don't want to do it, I say you're going to have to find another tech, because it's when the UPS starts to fail, it can corrupt the file systems. It can cause an issue, and that's going to result in problems for me, and that's going to reflect the quality of my work. The customers are going to say, Carrie installed this years ago, and now it's giving us problems, and so this is Carrie's fault. So to avoid me taking the blame for something that was completely avoidable because the customer didn't listen, if the customer won't listen, to protect my business and to protect my reputation, I walk away from that customer. Frankie B contributes $5 and he says, here's something to help you out. Right on, Frankie, thank you. Rick Lakes with another $10. Hey, Rick, thank you. Rick says, this is just because. I'm getting a lot of those today. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Because just because is going to pay for stuff coming up here on this video I was teasing you about. So thank you. A little after 6 o'clock here, so let me just see if I've missed any other questions. $10 from Marty Yoel. Hi, Marty. Marty had a computer problem the other day, but it sounds like he's got it sorted out, so I'm glad to hear that. Ryan wants to know, why was Tuesday's stream made private? Tuesday, I ran into some issues and with the hardware, and I started making conclusions that were completely wrong. Now, if a viewer were to just turn the video off, they would be leaving with wrong information. Because if the viewer didn't watch the video all the way through, where I corrected the misjudgments and false conclusions I came to earlier, then I will have caused harm to the community because they didn't watch the whole video. As a result of that, I've handed the video over to Planet Cryos to see if there's anything he can extract from it. And then I'm going to make a follow-up video that more or less summarizes a couple of things I covered in that video. And one of them is the importance of the date and time and the misinterpretation that date and time issues are not the same. Some date and time issues cause one problem, other date and time issues cause a different problem. But overall, the date and time is a very simple thing we can all check. In fact, you should check it now. Typically, Windows 10, if you're connected online, auto syncs with that by default unless you've turned it off. But you should look and make sure that your date and time are set correctly. Too far back, if you want to have a little fun right now, just to emphasize how important this is, change your date on your computer to 1999 or 2016. You can leave the day and the month alone. Just change the year. Then open up your browser and try to go to a website. That can be a very, very difficult problem for uninformed people to diagnose and repair. It could take hours, and it could be quite costly if you're paying by the hour. And yet the fix is that simple. But that's just one example. So because I just was too quick to come to a conclusion and then realized I was wrong, and I did it 2 or 3 times, I said, I'm going to take that video and make it private. I'm not erasing it. I'm just going to make it private because I don't want people to walk away, because who knows, some people just, they skip through the videos, and they get the information, they go, I got it, and they leave, but they got the wrong information. So for the safety of the community, I want to make sure that the information is correct and I don't want to conflict with myself. I don't want somebody to say, hey, you changed what you said from last time. No, I didn't. You just ended the video too soon. So this creates a huge nightmare for me. And it's my own fault, and now I'm correcting it. It's sort of the downside of making a live video. If that was a pre-recorded video, you would have never known. Mac Geek says, I found your long video about UPS, and he gives me the YouTube channel channel link. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let's go here, and then let's go here. Punch that in. Oh, this is an old video. What is a UPS is the title. Let's get a share link to this, copy it, and we'll paste it in the chat room. Yeah, this was live. I thought I had an edited version of this, and that came from somebody I need to turn blue. Who did that? Old Man 55 put it on there. Thank you, Old Man 55. Somebody else mentioned it a little earlier. Where did their name go? Ben Fitzpatrick says, Carrie, I'm struggling to get a new battery for my laptop. It's an HP Pavilion 1068CW, and I bought it a year or two ago, and it's reporting when it boots up that the battery is bad. Is there a part number on the battery, Ben? N68CW. There's a couple on eBay for $13. I mean, I'm sure they're not the best quality, but they should at least get rid of that error message and be fine. Buy you some time. But I'd have to know the battery model number to know. Sometimes eBay searches, they're like, well, it says HP and it says battery, close enough, you know. Tony wants to know, should I get a power conditioner to reduce coil whine? It depends on the source of the coil whine. It may not resolve it for you. More times than not, the device that's establishing the coil whine should be replaced if it's bothering you. So I would fix that. I think it'd be probably a warranty issue. Power conditioner wouldn't be. Power conditioners can be very, very expensive. Most people don't hear coil whine, especially the older we get. However, if it's that bad, it should be a warranty replacement issue. Or compared to the price of a power conditioner, probably replacing what's ever making the noise is still cheaper than a power conditioner, because I'm not even convinced a power conditioner will solve it. Depends on why it's making the coil noise. They don't always make the noise for the same reason. Ben says, I have to take the bottom of the laptop off to check that. So do yourself a favor, Ben. When you do take because if you're going to replace the battery, you got to do it anyway, right? There's a label on that battery, and it's got a bunch of information. Snap a picture of that with your phone. Then check the picture to make sure it's in focus. Then you can put the laptop back together. And then with that information, I'm sure you can find your battery. And then store that picture as long as you have the laptop, so you never have to do that again. He says, by the way, this laptop is out of warranty. Ben, if a battery is so hard to find for a laptop, it's obvious that it's because it's out of warranty. That's obvious. So. Brian Smith says, I love your videos. I watch them from beginning to end and no skipping. Hey, Brian, thank you. You're a madman. I don't watch my own videos beginning to end. The Mac Geek, he's the one I wanted to make moderator. There you go. He said, if you search u.p.s. in your YouTube search, 3 come up. Yeah, see, I just put UPS without the periods. Says there's about 3 videos. Okay, that sounds about right. Anthony Wilson wants to know if anyone else has had an issue with Bluetooth keyboards not being detected using Windows 10, trying to find a fix for a customer. Any advice is greatly received. Anthony, I advise customers not to use Bluetooth devices for keyboards or mouse for Windows computers because typically those keyboards and mice that are Bluetooth are designed for tablets and Mac products. They're not designed for Windows use. That's not to say you can't use it. I mean, in theory, Bluetooth is Bluetooth, but the reality is you could just get a 2.4 gigahertz standard wireless USB keyboard and mouse, and all these problems go away. Your range is further, and you don't have the Bluetooth delays. Now, some people say they want one keyboard and they want to use it on 3 different devices, and they have an iPad, and they've got a Mac, and they've got a Windows computer, and that's how they justify it. Well, that's their own self-inflicted torture because they don't want to buy another keyboard. And I'm not a big fan of saying, replace it. I'm a big fan of saying fix it. But in a case like this is a well-known and very common issue. And there's no reason why anybody must use a Bluetooth keyboard on Windows. If the customer is just adamant, then you could always buy a separate Bluetooth adapter and install that in the computer, or it could be even a USB Bluetooth adapter and plug it into a USB port. Chances are it's a driver-related problem with that manufacturer's Bluetooth device, not the keyboard, but the computer itself. Again, Bluetooth keyboards and mice aren't really promoted to Windows users. It's pointless. There's no reason any Windows user would require a Bluetooth keyboard. Bluetooth is inferior to the standard 2.4 gig or whatever the standard Wi-Fi. It's inferior because you don't have to pair it. It's inferior because you don't have to worry about typically the range distance is less than Bluetooth, or Bluetooth is less than this. There's no configuration required. It's plug and play, and it stays that way indefinitely, not for this week until an update comes out and breaks it. Windows updates and bad driver updates have created a number of Bluetooth related problems. So if you just have Bluetooth speakers or something because you don't want the wires, I get that. And if you have devices that require Bluetooth, perhaps you want to pair your phone to your computer, that's Bluetooth, and that's fine. But when you need something connected 24/7, basically, the minute you turn the computer on, and it's required for you to interact with the computer, and that's a Windows computer, Bluetooth is the absolute worst decision you can possibly make if you want reliability, because you are going to run into this problem. And when you fix this for your customer, as long as that customer insists on using a Bluetooth keyboard, you will continue to endure this problem until that customer stops using that. So different USB receiver is what I recommend if the customer is stubborn. Otherwise, get the customer a proper Logitech wireless keyboard and you'll be done forever. The problem will never happen again. Never, ever, ever happen again. It's all about prevention. Whether or not you solve a problem doesn't mean you've solved it indefinitely. In this case, you're just going to have the problem again and again and again. It's very well known, it's very common, and why people use Bluetooth keyboards on Windows computers is absolutely mind-boggling to me. It just doesn't make any sense. It is the most, Bluetooth is also more expensive. The licensing on it is more expensive. I can go on and on about how terrible Bluetooth is. You want to use it on a headset on your cell phone? Great. But on a PC, I would avoid it unless it is absolutely necessary. So that may not be the answer you wanted, but I promise you, I can guarantee if you were to get just a proper wireless keyboard, like for example from Logitech, the problem goes away forever. Where am I at? I'm gonna wrap this up here. 6 minutes. I'll be on for 3 hours. I think that's good for today. Jack lets me know that the Mac Geek was the first one to offer your UPS link. Thank you, Jack. We've turned the Mac Geek blue. Welcome to blue. Thank you, Mac Geek. Thank you, Jack. Michael wants to know if you can replace just the battery in some UPSs and not the whole thing. Yes, Michael, you can, but sometimes it's cheaper to buy a new one. The new ones typically come with batteries that are lighter and last longer and have bells, whistles, and features because technology after 3 years, you can imagine, if you change the battery after 3 years, the cost of that battery versus the cost of a new UPS, that old battery uses old technology and probably isn't made in the quantities it was made when you bought it, when you bought the UPS. Now, new battery technology is out that's cheaper, lighter, offers more power, and the UPS unit itself may offer a bunch of different features. Take a look at a Cyber Power UPS and take a look at an old school APC UPS. The Cyber Power one has a digital screen. You push a button, it provides all this information, crazy, right on the screen of the UPS. And that old UPC from 6 years ago, just a black box, no idea what's going on. If you wanted to change the battery out in that old obsolete APC, you could. But when you compare the price of that battery or batteries, some UPS contain 2 batteries or more, depending on the size of the UPS. The cost of that may be more than just buying a new modern UPS. And the new modern UPS is probably going to be lighter and offer more features and may cost less. So it's up to you either way. Definitely worth considering buying a new one if for no other reason than strictly on price alone, let alone all the other benefits that are potentially there as well. Bullseye says, Carrie, my bio says legacy. Is that okay or kind of the same? Does it need to be UEFI? There are features with UEFI that you won't have with a legacy BIOS. Legacy means old. That's what it means. You have an old BIOS. The old BIOS can't do what UEFI BIOSes do. Is that good or is it bad? I don't know. I mean, if you want the advantages and the features of technology advancing, then you want UEFI. If you want to stay years behind the rest of us because it's not important to you, then leave it alone. I don't know if there would be a benefit to you to be in UEFI mode, but eventually an operating system may not install in a legacy mode. But if you're not there yet, it's not really a problem yet. But all of those extra features that UEFI offers, you don't have. And if you don't have it, you don't miss it. So you're probably just fine. For now. Marco says Bluetooth keyboard and mouse do not work well with a KVM switch. I suppose that'd be true. I mean, why would you use a KVM switch? That doesn't even make any sense. You can buy Bluetooth keyboards and mice that have 3 different pairings. So you have pairing 1, pairing 2, and pairing 3. I've shown the Logitech mouse that does it. I was talking with Mike Smith on TechVets last night. He showed me his keyboard that he uses for his Mac, and it's got 1, 2, and 3, and that's for 3, whichever one you want to pair it to, or it's already paired with. So one's his tablet and one's his Mac, and then you don't need a KVM switch, at least as far as keyboard input goes. You just got to buy the right keyboard. Phil says hello from Mesa, Arizona. Hey, Phil. We at 3 hours? 2 hours and 59 minutes. Guys, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Thank you to all my friends in blue. Thanks to Frankie B and Jack Wilson and gosh, everybody who's contributed, whose names elude me, but I love you all. Thank you for supporting and encouraging what we do here. And thank you for being a part of this amazing community that we are creating. I hope you take advantage of that great deal I showed earlier on those power supplies at Amazon. That's a great price on those. Please use my Amazon link. If you use my Amazon link, I make a little tiny commission. Even if you're buying used stuff on Amazon, please use my link. You're anonymous. I don't know who you are. I just see something got purchased with my link and I make a little commission. It doesn't cost you anymore. Nothing changes and it brings a little money into the channel. And I split that money exactly down the middle with Mike Smith so that we can support TechVets that way and Mike Tech Show as well as this channel. So you're helping all 3 of those. So again, I thank each and every one of you for hanging out with me. Welcome. If you're new here, I hope you'll come back. My thanks to the Blue folks and the folks that have become Blue. Welcome to Blue. Rick Lakes, of course, I see. Stealth Mode, Aaron Computer Tech, Matt Power, Patrick Manny, Frank M, Jeff Ryman, Michael, Jim, KJ3N. I'm just mentioning those names because they're right on the screen in front of me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and for taking care of the lonely trolls that were looking for attention. Those poor little babies. And I will see you all again tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Mitch Morrison and I are going to build in a Dan case. D-A-N. You ever met anybody named Dan? Dan created a case. And he said, what am I going to call this? The Dan case. You want to learn more about it? Google it. And that'll give you a little heads up of what to expect tomorrow, starting at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, which is Pacific Time right now, California time. I hope to see you then. Until then, bye for now. I have to find an outro. This could take a while. We'll do something quick and simple. Thanks again, folks. Bye for now. See, I have to do it every time. It's like an OCD thing.